on the one hand, the direct impact of coronavirus and the pandemic, certainly, particularly in Q1 of this year, there was a lot of kind of reactive work being done by the legal teams across Dyson to support the business in our kind of response to that. And, I think it's actually quite interesting because things have changed and so much has been happening over the last few months that it's almost difficult to remember what things were like back in kind of February time. And, obviously as a global business, we've got campuses and people working across the world, including in China and across Asia. So in a sense, it was a sort of creeping element of the pandemic. So we started in January and we began to provide our response. And then obviously things became increasingly serious all the way to where we ended up in March, obviously with the campus in the UK being shut down and lockdown in the UK. And then interestingly, of course, as the pandemic has kind of developed at different speeds and ebbed and flowed across the world, what we observe are quite different operating conditions in different parts of the world, and that's been quite challenging, I think. And so the legal teams initially were very heavily involved, and I think maybe we might come on to talk about that, but I think it's quite interesting in terms of when there's difficult problems to face and certainly lots of ambiguity and uncertainty, actually business leaders reach out to their lawyers because they don't really know what else to do. And quite often the lawyers tend to be bright, sensible people who have got good judgment and actually add a lot of value in that sort of crisis response. But of course, the challenge then is if that becomes part of your BAU activity, that becomes quite demanding from a resource perspective. So I think there's definitely been that aspect in that, we're living through extraordinary times, unprecedented really, certainly in kind of modern post-Second World War context, and that hasn't had an impact. Some of that work has been picked up by the legal teams, and that is unusual and has been unprecedented. Other than that, we're very pleased to say that Dyson's business is performing strongly, actually, in all the circumstances. And so, that has been coupled with the normal levels of work that we would expect to be seeing. And then we've also been running this transformation program. So, yeah, there's been a lot going on.
I know your teams have been exceptionally busy throughout the pandemic, and that continues to be the case. Like so many other legal teams that we talk to, are you finding new and innovative ways to tackle the volume of work?
Yeah, no, so I think this is where the transformation program and the pandemic, there's been this kind of confluence of the two things. So we were planning to try and make some of these changes the back end of last year and plan the transformation program for this year and into next year and possibly beyond. And then in a way that, I think, which is true across lots of different industries and different departments within organizations, the pandemic has really kind of created a greater sense of urgency in making those changes and also accelerated them. And that's been the same really within Dyson and within Dyson Legal. So, we have tried to develop both new ways of working and different operating models and the use of technology through matter management and service portal and an NDA platform and those kind of things, which I'm sure we can talk about in more detail, in order to try and control the demand from our business for legal services. Because I think, in common with many kind of in-house teams, and particularly in the context of Dyson, where the business has experienced incredibly rapid hyper growth for a sustained period of time. We had an operating model which was really about delivering excellent services, whatever those services were demanded by the business. And we wanted to move to a place where we were able to deliver a better experience for our people, but also to have a better control of the cost of those services. And so essential to that really is just trying to control the demand and effective ways to charge that. So that we've developed, launched at the end of August is really the kind of fundamental part of that.